Curt Johansen, welcome to the show. I am more excited about having you on than I've been with a guest in a long time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's a pleasure.
The work that you're doing, and the audience, we're going to really get into what it means to really be a seer, to see a future that does that changes and really impacts us in a positive way, a way of living that is holistic and it's 360 degrees. It's not just great homes. It's not just a great community. It's a great way of living and a great way of a lifestyle, and really brings community to a whole nother level, in a way that we care about each other and are developing systems to really bring a way of living that's so much more sustainable than ever before. So
Very well put. Yeah, I got interested in sustainable development a few decades back, and we defined the term about 50 years ago. The Brundtland Commission actually convened and just gave it a big overarching type of definition, saying, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it's doing things in a way that do not provide any detriment to future generations, right? So how do you actually implement that? That's tricky, right? It's a noble goal to say that our impacts to the environment won't in any way be irrevocable for our future generations. But in my little corner of the world, I scale that to a community level, and really, what it brings together is three major components. There's always an economic prosperity component, there is an environmental protection component, and there is a social equity component. And it's finding that sort of sweet spot of balance among those three. And you can actually, if you always operate from principles and keep that in mind, you can actually scale that down to any size community you want to work on.
it's amazing. I mean, your communities aren't small communities. I mean,
Yeah, they're large. Yeah.
1,100, 1,200 homes in a community.
Yeah, that's a good size. And I do that because I feel like as a practitioner, it's a little easier for people to see it and scale that way. I mean, it's there are wonderful small projects scattered about, but I like to actually try to make a little bit more of an impact by having people see it on a bigger scale. And so it takes longer. It's a little more complicated, but I've been doing it for a while, and it's what gets me up every day.
Audience, if we're going to really talk about a couple of the really big developments that Curt and his team have developed, they are. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's kind of get into the communities themselves, so the audience really can understand what it's like. These are not just a couple of blocks of development. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is a community.
Very socially connected and well knit together communities is what we're after. And there are three sort of significant um, components to it. One is conservation. So we really admire conservation community development, and conservation communities have been defined sort of broadly as communities that prioritize the protection of the environment over where the built environment will occur. So it's shrinking footprints so that at least 70% of the land within a planning area is set aside to be protected. But it's not just setting aside land, it's actually embedding it in the planning of where the built environment is, so that all of the residents actually are directly connected with that open space that's preserved, and then they take ownership of it. They actually become connected to it. They value it more. We all love parks, and we don't have enough of them in this country. Done a lot of research over the years, particularly in Europe, seeing how cities over there do it. They have so much more parkland within their cities than we do, as a rule. But here, even with a shortage of parks, oftentimes they're disconnected from the places people live. And what we really want to do is actually connect them directly, because when people value something, they take better care of it. And ultimately, our open spaces, if they're going to thrive for both human and non-human species, we need stewardship of those lands. And who better than to do that than the residents of the community that are actually benefiting directly from it, as well as the overall public who gets access to it. But it's that connection that's really important. And what I've discovered, Anthony, over the years is that there's a strong social connection that happens with that conservation. People oftentimes, technology, as wonderful as it is, and otherworldly as it is for most of us, that don't understand it very well, but our lives are driven so much by technology. Um, that has also the duality of distancing ourselves from our neighbors. And part of the value of having conservation just embedded in a community is that neighbors tend to actually get to know each other better. They get involved together in their own place because they take ownership of their place. And so it becomes more of a qualitative than a quantitative thing. I've seen it in so many examples where in a conservation community, instead of people saying, gee, I wonder what my house is worth, the first thing that comes to their mind is how well are we actually living up to our principles of environmental and social benefit and wellness for the community. And the irony of that is that those communities tend to actually have higher values in terms of people's personal property than the conventional types of communities. So it's kind of funny how that works, but I've seen it repeatedly, and it's a good model. We believe in it a lot. The second part to the conservation part is live, work, play. So live, work, play is a concept that very visionary planner Ebenezer Howard came up with in the UK about 100 years ago. And they built a couple of model communities over there, and they've been studied by so many planning students and developers over the years. And we've tried to replicate it in the US, a few notable examples. But what's interesting about live, work, play is the idea there is to keep people from having to commute out to go and do things that we all like to do. Certainly one of them is working. And, with the pandemic, we have a lot of telecommuting going on now that has never taken hold before, but we don't really know exactly how that's going to all play out. But the idea that you could actually live, work, and recreate without ever having to get into your automobile, big part of what we try to do. And the last part is sustainable design. So the actual residences, the offices, the neighborhood shops, the organic farm, the amenities that we create, the parks, all of them have both active and passive sustainable design built into them so that we can reduce energy consumption, reduce water consumption. Those types of things are important to us. So we try to actually find that wonderful melding of those three concepts in the things we do.
As we've grown, right, the speed by which we're developing the world, right? I mean, it's we're overwhelmed, and my sense is that these were things that weren't matter to us before, right?
Mhm.
All these concepts that you're talking about, they're not new.
Right.
These matter to us, but the problem is that we all got growing so fast that they became blurred, right?
Mm.
That the new toaster, the new car, the new uh, widget, the Facebook, the thing, all of these things that we had, they're wonderful, and we're just so distracted by them that we kind of lost touch with where we started, right?
Mm.
Great communities were always part of a social structure and a well-developed social structure is having a great community, right? A place where where my neighbors, it's not about my show, it's where I can count on each other, right? Where we can live together in a way that we support each other. I mean, when certainly when we were tribal, pre-industrial revolution,
Mhm.
when smaller community, these were important. We looked out for each other. Your kids could work on the block together. There was communities where our success together was important. And my sense is that by the speed by which we developed, nobody meant no meaning to. There was no malevolence in it. It was really
Mhm.
just more of confusion and rapid growth. And today we're seeing, the illnesses that's causing, right?
Yeah.
People and communities that are sick, right? Whole communities of people that are just have lost touch with each other, and they're even in their own homes, right? Right. So when a community loses it, then the home loses it. You kind of say that there's an echo effect throughout the entire entity called community.
Yeah, no, very well said. We have become a very disposable society, which is unfortunate because even communities tend to be looked at as disposable communities, which is really sad. It's that biophilic connection that people have to nature that has been with us, for tens of thousands of years. I mean, we can't deny it. We are connected to nature. Some of us actually become what Richard Louv called nature. We come, afflicted with nature deficit disorder because we're so removed from nature that we actually start to forget the benefits that we get from it. And so, our idea here is to really extend out to make sure that potential residents know what this is about. Our orientation uh, process is a little different than a lot of communities. We actually require um, uh, you know, um, prospects to come through and actually learn about this part of the community, how it's been set up, the concepts behind it, the principles, the values. And, sometimes it's a little overwhelming for some people. It's not exactly what they're looking for. But what I really have found over the years is so invaluable is that when you do that, the people who do find that it's a wonderful fit for them, they decide right away that this is where they want to live. It's not about what house or how many bedrooms they're getting or any of that. That comes later. It's that I've been looking to live like this for a long time. And so it's very rewarding to be able to have a better opportunity to know that people want to be there when they become a part of the community. Not that they're just transient and a year or two from now they can't wait to go somewhere else. And that builds long time relationships. What you said earlier about we've always been an agrarian society. We still are. I mean, industry is industry. We could get rid of industry tomorrow, but we can't get rid of agriculture and our food tomorrow. Our food and our water are essential to our lives. So to actually prioritize that for a community does create a social wellness. It binds people, and I think they become happier. I mean, I've seen it time and time again where we try to measure happiness. There are lots of happiness scales out there. The people who seem the happiest are the ones that are most connected and secure in their communities.
You mean they're not the people with the most toys aren't the most happy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm a baby boomer. So, I have to take some responsibility. Our generation got so caught up in that materialism thing. And, capitalism is certainly our system. It's everywhere in the world. I mean, we have lots of different versions of it, but capitalism is everywhere. And it's a successful model,
That's right.
but it also has an underbelly to it. And if we're not careful, we can allow it to get far too skewed into that materialist side. And so what I'm really trying to do is actually help people set up communities so that it's a little easier for them to balance that way of looking at how they live.
I think that is let's go back a second. When you were talking about, actually interviewing people to come be part of your community,
Mhm.
not just open the model home and have the floodgates of prospects come in, take the first contracts they come in, they're, starting the behavior with, hey, look, this is what you're going to be up to when you're here. Or do you really
Mhm.
want to be part of this? Right? Because here we do stand for something. Now, at the end of the day, I really do believe that even the people who don't want to go there don't know they really do want to go there, right? And I'm trying to put that in onto everybody, but sometimes I've been blinded. And as a man, I've watched my ebb and tide of myself as a man. I've been, I have certainly been distracted by shiny objects, and I've tried to collect all of them that I can, and then I've been left empty. Find out it's empty, meaningless, right? And all of that has, there was someplace I was taught that. And
Mhm.
then not knowing that that wasn't great, I went out and executed on that. I had to learn. Now, I think that's what's happening to us where, developments like you have, like yourself, guys like you are inspiring in that we've learned that we could go build, model homes and cities that pop up all over. How many houses can we jam into this piece of property? How much, how much can we get out of it as a developer? And then at the end of it, what's the sustainability of it? How many of those mortgages go bad? How many of those communities go bad?
Yeah.
What's it take to really build a sustainable community where people will thrive as humans, right? And beings, as the beings that they are, where the communities will thrive, right? And how's that going? Right? So as you start to see, um, as you start to do this, how long have they been open now? These communities?
Well, I've been at it for, gosh, I hate to admit it, almost 4 decades now. But it takes us quite a while to go through the planning and entitlement process for these. So we over the last 35 years, I'd say our company we've probably built close to 10,000 homes. And a lot of them are infill communities. What we actually prioritize infill, meaning those are those are sites that are surrounded by urban development, and they fit in nicely into the communities and regions where they're located. So it's an asset that way. But there's also this other side, which is, a lot of our development is not infill; it's sprawl, and sprawl can really be unhealthy. It's not healthy for cities. It's not healthy for people because when you just keep going out, it's like putting on weight as a person. I mean, you don't feel good. And when cities just grow horizontally instead of having a core that's strong, um, then they just don't have a there.
Hmm.
And that's there's a lot of cities like that. They just and then they try to come in sometimes and create a there after the fact, which is a lot harder to do. And so, we've been at this for a while, and we've had lots of projects at lots of different sizes and scales. But I'm at the point now where I believe the latest one that's under construction right now, it's just to give you some raw numbers, we have a planning area of approximately 2,300 acres. And of that planning area, only about 15% will actually have built environment products on it, both residential and commercial. So lots of open space, lots of parks and recreation and all that sort of thing. So that achieves our conservation goals. But within those various neighborhoods, and there'll be 14 very distinct small neighborhoods. They're all connected, but they're all unique also. They also have special things happening in each one. So, for instance, we actually require certain things that are more universal to the community. For instance, gray water reclamation. So, we actually feel so strongly about not only renewable resource energy and energy conservation, but water conservation. So out here in California, we're a big desert frankly. And we really are continuing to get closer and closer to a very serious crisis in water. And we've had droughts, we've had rationing of water, and that's not going to get better. That's just going to keep getting worse. But for residences, almost half of the water use that people use is to irrigate their properties. And to use potable treated water for that makes no sense at all. So technology is advanced enough that you can have a small little package system right on your property that will allow 200 gallons per day to get filtered, cleaned, and then you could irrigate everything. And if that's the water you showered with yesterday and you can keep your plants alive with it the next day, it's just that much more water we save that we really need for drinking. So that's more of a universal thing. But on a neighborhood scale, while we require that, so the homes have the ability to do that, on the neighborhood scale, we want each small little neighborhood to be distinctive in the way it operates. So, for instance, we will take the natural environment and actually bring it into the community. There's a wonderful concept of reconciliation ecology that really talks about sort of integrating human and non-human species in their environment. So habitats for birds and animals of all kind can actually be embedded in communities, in neighborhoods, because of the way they're landscaped, the way they're planted, the way they're planned, so that there's connection, there's corridors for habitat, there's food, water, shelter, space, all the things that biology needs to thrive. And so it's a lot of work to do that. And you made an interesting comment earlier. Conventional development is really cramming as much housing as you can or commercial as you can on a piece of property, without regard for conservation or the natural environment, because we're so driven by a single line mentality, right? Just be as efficient as possible, make as much money as we can on this, and then let somebody else worry about the conservation side of it. Let somebody else worry about the social wellness side of it and the equity side of it. I just think that, and I hope long after I'm gone, this becomes more the norm rather than the sort of the exception, which is what we are now. And I'm just trying to do my little part to show examples of how it can work.
It's a difficult one when you're looking at a developer saying, "Hey, this is why this is important," right? But I think that we've seen this, right? We've seen the cost of it. It's now just telling the story, right? That pendulum swung, right? And we have row houses upon row houses upon row houses where, neighborhoods that how fast can we put them up and how cheap can we build them? We've got communities who just mastered that. Now that pendulum's starting to swing and they're starting to look at, okay, what's the cost of that? What materials are we using when we're building these things? Recovering 200 gallons a day of water. I mean, literally, that's just in the showers, right? I mean,
Yeah, no, we all do it.
I've got 5 kids in here. You take 5
Yeah.
a day. I mean, there's your 5. There's your money.
Oh yeah. And the laundry, right? And dishwashing. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of that.
So then it becomes fun, right? Then a community starts to really work. And what I think one of the real things that I see you guys doing is it's not just you are the police. Now you as a community start working on the impact together, right? And kind of challenging each other to continue to push those boundaries, right? How else can we do this? What are some other ideas? Sharing of ideas of how to do this better and live better and save more, right? This becomes a little bit of maybe even
Peer
there peer, yeah, a little peer pressure, right? A little peer pressure to keep developing this.
Yeah, yeah, no, well put. Fostering sustainable behavior really does come from neighbors working together and feeling good about striving to do better, right? I can remember, you get a little older, you can remember stuff that the younger generation doesn't even know about. You talk to younger people, recycling, right? The can that you put your recyclables in. I can remember when we didn't have that, and then it came in, and there was always like a person on the block who would put out their recycling in a weird looking contraption, and everybody else like, what is that? What a goofy thing, right? Now, if you don't recycle, you're an outcast,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
That didn't happen because we made a law that we're going to arrest people or fine them if they don't recycle. It's that fostering of a sustainable behavior, and you know, as we move more and more through the century, and we're all aware, at least all of the thinking people I know are aware that climate change is very real. The science is irrefutable, and even though there are some people who still have soapboxes and try to make light of it, it's it is the reality of what we're facing, and then future generations will face. And the more we can try to actually design our systems and our products, frankly, industry needs to do their part too. I mean, I'm happen to be in the community building business, but if you're making carpets, if you're making cars, whatever it is you're doing, embedding those principles of reclamation and reuse and minimizing waste, that all combined gives future generations a better chance to really achieve that goal of not having it any worse than we have it. And I know there's a lot of wonderful people out there doing amazing things. I mean, I have spent the last 25 years trying to sit down and talk to so many intelligent people, so wise that they understand stuff that I didn't understand. I mean, people like Wendell Berry, who, I was fortunate to spend a couple hours with Wendell, and it's like every other sentence from him is just like dripping with wisdom. I mean, he made me understand that every time we think we know something, what we know is surrounded by ignorance. I mean, we just have to be humble about that, and having humility about that opens up possibilities. It opens up people to actually be talking to others about things that they are not afraid to say, I don't understand that.
I,
Hey, it's okay. That's actually a sign of intelligence when
yeah.
you say, yeah, explain that to me.
Well, or even have, the word grace, right? To me, the thing I've really noticed is that I can't blame anybody for what's going on. I mean, I could walk around and wag my finger at everybody, but I'm not sure how beneficial that ever was, right? In a community, right? But I could also look at them and go, hmm, how could they? I mean, they don't know. I mean, nobody's out there wanting to be malevolent and just suck up the resources and use them up, right? There are people who just they don't know it. I was in a parking lot the other day, and the lady just opened a door and put the garbage on the floor, and I thought to myself, hmm.
Hmm,
And she's got a car full of kids, and I'm thinking to myself, hmm,
hmm.
just the impact of that for her children. Has no idea, right? There's just no impact, no understanding of that. And I could be judgmental and have a whole story about how could they? I could go over and knock on her door, and there's part of me that's angry about that. Like, how could you? But then there's also not understanding the value of community and the impact that's having on everybody else and her family. And
Yeah.
it was having grace for them gave me a different place to be, right? I didn't have to walk over and be all dun, 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 dun. It
Exactly. Exactly. You're driven by compassion, Anthony, and that's a gift. We need so much more of that in the world, where we can so easily just sort of turn our back on others, and just sort of do the finger pointing thing, when we really don't know what it is to walk in others' shoes until we really experience what they're doing and what they're going through. Um, and so to have that point of view, which is, that's not a person who wants to do bad. That's a person who just didn't have the opportunity to see what's possible, what what's healthier for not only everybody else, but for them directly. And I spend a fair amount of time over in Europe, and there's sort of there's an awareness over there, and just putting aside political systems, I'm not even getting into that. That doesn't matter. There's an awareness there that sustainable thinking, longer term thinking, is actually not just for future generations. It's actually beneficial for the people who are involved today in that behavior.
Just that, if we just started with doing the work, right? A better life for me has always been, it's never the end result. It's the process I go through during it, right? It's
That's
the
it.
process, like somehow or another, in the practice of being sustainable, or the practice of living better, or the practice of being, more conscious. That practice has me live in a way that I enjoy. Right? It's never the end where I'm conscious now. It's the process of, well, look at that. I was a little more conscious through that. I didn't blow up, or I didn't lose my temper, or I
Yes.
had an opportunity. The pride and like, I changed a little bit. There's something about that that's kind of fun. And I think that today, when you look at these communities you're developing, this isn't like you guys had to sit down with a group of scientists and go figure out now maybe you have, there's some biology or something in there, but these are things that are available to us all now, right? I mean, everything you're putting into these systems, they're
Yeah,
not.
there's nothing revolutionary here. This is just it's just an amalgam of lots of different best practices that we really should just try to bring together.
That to me is the part that people, I think, given the opportunity, right, to go, okay, this is 7 cents and this is 8 cents, but this is going to save you, the life cost of this is
Right.
dramatic,
Yeah.
and the life cost to our community is dramatically different. Everybody will pick the 8 cents. Right now, I don't know where that line breaks, where the dollar amount becomes too much in there. But my real guess is that rarely is it impactful, where the cost of it is the problem. Just the knowledge that's available, right? Hey, I'm
Mhm.
going to make these choices. I'm going to create a community where I have these choices. That, hey, having 70% green space makes us all healthier. That everybody that lives here will live better because we do that.
You just actually hit on something really, really interesting, Anthony. That is a nice way to summarize our thinking about how this survives us, which is even if we are sort of self-selective about people who want to be living in community that's not only has a strong social wellness component, but a strong environmental ethic, and that gets them more involved in that. It's not about them thinking that, gosh, that's time that I could be doing this or doing that. It's just, do I really want to commit to that? What happens is the in over time, the value of that connection and that sort of placemaking and stewardship of where you live, we find that it actually keeps people there much longer than conventional communities where, there's, the last time I looked, the average American moves 11, 12, 13 times over the course of their careers, right? Once they turn adults. And, that's a lot of moving around. And if you're moving around that much, um, what is the likelihood that you're really going to get connected to your place? What is the likelihood that you're going to put that longer term value on the energy you put into that investment? And
Idea.
we we really feel like that's a social component that is almost hard to put a value on. It's such a strong way to sort of be multi-generational in the way we think about that. Is we love the idea of families and their children and their children's children being able to live in these communities and have that continuity.
All right. So, Curt Johansen, now I'm inspired, right? And if you were going to write the cliff notes and say, all right, hey, developers, here's a want you would have for them, right? If you were to give them, here, I'm going to give you the magic wand. Here's the magic wand. And you're going to wave the magic wand and you're going to give them a gift and say, look, these are just some places you can start, right? Don't just take a scoop. You don't have to go dig the whole thing out. Just take a scoop when you're looking at development. What might you inspire them to start scooping on?
That's an interesting thing to think about. You know, development is so much driven by our codes on from the public side about what we can do and what we can't do. And I know a lot of people in the industry, and I have a lot of friends in the industry who are really dedicated, smart, and very driven people that want to do this kind of thing. There's a lot of inhibitors to that because at the end of the day, it's expensive to do this work, and there's lots of risk in it. Lots of things that can go wrong. I mean, for instance, right now we have, our inflation has been, going out of control and stuff like that. And hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll start to get that under control and, then interest rates will settle down and all that sort of thing. But if I had a wish for developers, it wouldn't be so much that they could just go do something independently. It's more about finding jurisdictions that embrace this, finding a location where the public side, the people who make the rules and have to buy into this, open their minds and say, let's try it. And if every developer could find an opportunity site in a city that took that chance and said, this is different, but we need to do different. We need to try things. Then you would see so much more of this happening across the United States. And so I'm almost answering your question with a big prayer that it's not only the private side, but it's also the public side that embraces this.
The public side, they're there, right? There's not every community you sit in a meeting, they all want to go there.
Mhm.
They're mired in minutia. I sit down with,
Well,
and every city we sit down with, they're just trying to figure out how not to get the residents pissed off, and they want to make these changes, but it's a big conversation, right? I just try to get them looking at a couple of spots, right? Is it that we start looking at water, recovering water, a great way to start? Is it renewable energy resource? That seems like an easy one. Like
Mhm.
imagine a community where every single home, I'll give one. To date, my number one goal would be, if I had a goal, if I was the president, you gave me the magic wand, I
Mhm.
would say every sprinkler system and every pool pump had to be on solar. Period. You want to put a sprinkler pump in, you want to put a pool in, you got to put it on solar. Look,
It's a good one.
these
Yeah.
are these are gifts. These are gifts to you and your community. You're growing grass. The grass grows when the sun's out. Sun's out. That's what makes the pool pump go, or the sprinkler pump go. Great. Same thing for the right. Like just there'd be easy ones. Like we could take every sprinkler system and every pool pump off the grid. Imagine just that little. That's a one, right? That's not a big one, right? Those are smaller systems. You could do it for such the amount of cost on that, it's so small. It'd be great. We could impact that. Oh, hey, while we're doing that, why don't we throw in, all of our outside lights, all outside lights on a house, or exterior lights,
Yeah. Why not?
just
I
there.
like it.
Right now, all of a sudden, we're just pulling, just one thing at a time off the grid. But as we do that, we inspire the development of the ideas, right? And they're, as you're the kind of developer that inspires us to look at simple ideas that are just they're right in front of us, right? I mean, look, this is a big bold, but for us that don't have that ability to see as big as you're seeing it, start with something small, right?
Well, I'll give you a good one because yours was so good. Um, every development should have a small farm. It
Yeah.
should have a little organic farm just built right into the planning of the community, and it can be as small as an acre. It doesn't even have to be bigger than that. If it's a small neighborhood, if it's a small project, if it gets a little bit bigger, grow that to 3 acres, grow that to 5. But then there is a connection to the land. There is kids getting to see where their food comes from. So they don't think it comes from the grocery store because, I always have to laugh when come across a kid who thinks that the power to run their laptop comes from the wall. Yeah, it's like, has no one explained to them that it has nothing to do with that? It's just a transmission system. Where does that really come from? Well, it's the same with food. And we will value food so much more and transition more into healthier food as we have young people and then their kids and then their kids really appreciate what it is to create food, how we grow food. And so that's a little thing, but actually it's not so little when you think about
Well, I hear the breakdown goes into, I just worked all day. Now I got to go work on the farm. What you guys have done is different. You've made it
it.
part of a business. You've actually made it an economical.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
It has to survive. It
right,
has to be able to pay its own way. Mhm.
right. So there's that the idea of going, hey, I'm gonna come home after 8 hours of work and I got to go do the farm. Now, I do believe that more people that do it, well, more people that want to do it, it becomes part of a social network that's exciting, where you and I can meet down the farm and work on it together. It
That's
becomes
right.
part of a social environment. Now,
That's right. We know how popular farmers markets are, right?
that's
That
right.
people use those to congregate, and a small a farm that's supported by the community, but also has other sources of revenue. Restaurants buy produce from these farm. I mean, you can have farm stands. There's all kinds of options there, but it's also, instead of having to have a Starbucks as your place, you go and meet with your friends and go down to the farm. There's probably a really cool barn down there where you can hang out down there. And by the way, you can pick up your produce while you're there for the week, that kind of thing.
Right, right, right. We're part of a community where we buy our produce from our farm. Like this is
Yeah.
our community farm. The problem with agriculture is it's great, right? That we've, you know,
Mhm.
pre industrial revolution, we had to live where the food was,
Yeah,
right? Now we've got these massive farms that grow all this massive food, but we've lost our connection, which is I do believe at a fundamental level, part of our DNA is growing food and being part of its growth. My grandfather, my grandparents always had, tomato plants and fava beans and a vineyard, and there was always dirt
yeah,
that was part of our home that they were growing stuff in, and it wasn't that we fed everybody, but it was kind of fun when the tomatoes came ripe, and
sure.
grandma would be in there. They would make the tomato sauce and they would can it for the whole year, and it was kind of
But
a family thing to do.
you can never get the quality from the Safeway that you can get from growing it in your backyard. It's just amazing how delicious that food is because it's fresh. It's right off the vine. It makes such a difference. I mean, most of the food that we buy in grocery stores spends days in trucks being transported or airplanes all over the world. And, a very high percentage of food that we grow in these industrial farms is wasted because it spoils before it even gets to the stores where they sell it.
If you're
And
one of
so,
if you're one of my friends and you got a farm, send me your tomatoes because I love when
yeah,
you smell the dirt in it, right? There's a little bit of that. Oh, come on, you slice that and put a little olive oil on top of that with some salt. Come
yeah,
on,
so good.
that's good living. Now, I get we're all going there. So, Curt, this is what I really love about what you're doing. I am so inspired. I hope that the work we do today, the world, guys, if you're seeing this, you've got to go see. Let's get some connection to the website. So let's get people going to see Logan Valley and the other site so they can see it. So walk them into the connections and get them to the website.
Sure. I think the best way for people to learn more about this is to go to our company website, start there. That's Triad Development. And if you Google Triad Development, we're based in Seattle, but that'll take you to various projects. Lagoon Valley being one of them. You can also go directly to the Lagoon Valley website that will give people a lot more information about what we've been talking about today. But we have a wide variety of things on the website, and there's also some educational material and links there that we like people to be able to have access to. A reading lists of if people want to learn more about where the people who have inspired me, Anthony, over the years are some of the best and brightest folks we have out there. And I've been blessed with being able to actually spend time with a lot of them and have them educate me. And so I just feel like one of our jobs is to actually make it easier for people to access that information. So those are a couple of places that are easy for people to start.
So just make sure I get people, folks. It's Triad, TRIADEV, triaddevelopment.com,
Yeah.
right? Put the
Mhm.
links down below. Put the links down below so you can get there, and
Yeah.
those will give you connections to the other
Yeah.
communities that they develop.
Various projects. Yeah.
And Curt Johansen, if people want to get a hold of you, right? They want to
Mhm.
get what's the best way for them to do that?
They can reach me at Kurt at Terra Verde Ventures. So I'll spell that for you. CURT at TERRAVERDE Ventures, VENTURES.com.
Curt Johansen, I am inspired. I am moved. I am touched.
Mm.
This is the kind of work that is changing the world. You are a magician. Your years, your decades of work shows in the craftsmanship and the design of the communities you're building. This will go down as long-term benefit to all of us in the world. It's inspiring. Keep up that work. I hope that audience members, if you're inspired as much as I am by Mr. Johansen's work, please take a second and look him up. See what you can do. Take a second now and subscribe and like this. Put any comments down below. I'll make sure that Mr. Johansen gets these comments. And sir, I am inspired and grateful that you're here. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Anthony, and I'm grateful to you for having this opportunity. I mean, you're without you, it's hard to get the word out, and it's been an honor for me.
Same here. All right, you guys, like always, if you like the show, please take a second, like and subscribe to the show. It just lets us know that we're hitting the right spots. And if you got any guests or somebody you want to see on here, let me know. I am always looking for amazing guests to have on here and inspire you guys with ideas. So thanks for being on. Thanks for listening all the way through. And we'll see you again.
Thank you, Anthony.